All right. And Ari, would you like to
Happy
start
to.
us off? I realized that in our notes we didn't get a introduction in there for me to introduce you as our lovely, lovely moderator and train conductor, even though we're not on the train anymore.
That's all right.
But
Make something up.
well, actually, I think everybody here. Bobby, have you met Ari?
I don't think so.
All right. Well,
I have
for
not
those
met Ari. I am delighted to meet you, Ari.
Thanks, Bobby. Nice to meet
uh,
you.
well, uh, Ari has joined the DSS as an advisor this year. He has been helping us out with moderating our sessions. At the end of each session, we have a Q&A that he has been delightfully leading. Um, and Ari, since I don't have it in front of me, why don't you tell us a little bit about you as our host for this little segment?
Sure. I'm a designer and a visual artist. I work in wood, and I'm fascinated with harmonic relationship in space, in time, and in human systems. It was a delightful thing that drew me into Harlan's orbit. I think I first stumbled upon Harlan's work at Burning Man over a decade ago, and when Harlan was creating these like big, beautiful, spatial and sonic structures. So it's an absolute pleasure to introduce him to everybody. Harlan's bio simply reads Galactic Transformation Agent, which is my favorite alphabet agency that should exist, that maybe in the new Earth to come will. And I think Harlan's going to first share with us some visions of his, and then lead us into the panel with Eli and myself. So Harlan, welcome up to the stage.
All right. Yeah, great. Glad to be kicking off this breakout here in the Futurist Cafe with you, Ari and Bliss, and everyone who chose to join us. So what we're going to do is just, I've been in the Design Science Studio since it launched in 2020. So this is my third cohort. And as completing my project when I first came into the project, I was just talking about this idea for a future city, which I'll be presenting later on this afternoon in the Vision Train. But what came out of joining it was to make it a broader focus for everything I'm doing. So at the end of the first cohort, I launched a website called Portal to the New Earth. And as part of that website, created this short intro video to explain it in a nutshell. So let's go ahead and share that to kick this off. Oh, hold on, wait. Let me make sure. I don't think, oh no. Can you hear it? Did I have the sound turned on?
No, it sounds like a mumbled.
I know. Share sound, optimize for video clip. There we go. And let's get this back to the beginning. Now it's going to work. Okay, share and play. Good?
Yep, sounds great.
My name is Harlan Emil Gruber. I have been creating interactive portal installations since 2004 at Burning Man and other festivals around the world, starting with the 1111 Diamond Portal. I've gone on to build many more of these portal installations that all contain the Quasar Wave Transducer, a device I invented that creates subtle low-frequency purring vibrations in the range of human brain waves and the Earth's Schumann resonance. These sounds also signify that the geometries used in these designs are vibrational energy patterns. The intention of these portal installations is to facilitate an evolution of consciousness in the participants so that they will awaken to the fact that everything in the world is sacred and choose to live accordingly. I have been doing presentations on the portal installations that go into detail explaining the three-dimensional geometries that are utilized in their design, as well as a general understanding of how three-dimensional geometry relates to the evolution of consciousness. The original inspiration for this work comes from one of my life's biggest influences, the geodesic dome inventor and comprehensive design scientist R. Buckminster Fuller. His vision is, quote, to make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone. I'm also inspired by the Italian architect Paolo Solari's book, Arcology, City in the Image of Man, that depicts his visions of ecologically integrated three-dimensional megastructure cities. I have gone on to study how humanity can inhabit the Earth in the most beautiful and sustainable way, such as Bruno Taut's crystalline cities on mountaintops conceived in 1919, Glenn Small's massive biomorphic biosphere from the late 60s, and contemporary bioarchitect Vincent Calabet's concepts such as this bridge built using 3D printing aerial drones. I have combined all of these studies into my own design for an arcology called the 12-Spiral City that consists of spiraling ramps wide enough to contain all of the buildings, streets, and gardens that are built upwards over time. I'm now developing a technique called terraquaforming, integrating land and water into human-built environments in a regenerative and life-enhancing way. Examples of this are the ancient rice terraces of Asia and man-made lakes, but terraquaforming goes a step further by integrating everything from the scientific to the spiritual nature of reality to create a world of divine harmony and sacred beauty to benefit not only humanity, but all life and the earth itself. I invite anyone inspired by this to collaborate on its development.
Hey, so can you believe that's under 3 minutes? It's got a lot jammed in there. I'm putting into the chat the website which that is on. So if you ever want to refer back or share that with anybody. So with that said, it's perfect introduction to what I proposed for sharing today in the salon, a little discussion panel of New Earth Visions. And I kind of feel like that video put my visions out there. So with working with Ari and Alai, we'd like
Oh, is Harlan frozen or is that just me?
I think we got Harlan frozen.
Oh,
framing the New Earth.
he's
Oh,
back.
he's back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Oh, I froze, huh? How long was I
Just
gone?
for a second.
No, it was a great throw into this panel that you invited us into. I'm so curious, the idea around the panel was to bring us into these new Earth visions, and your vision in that film seems so based around this relationship between Earth and nature. I'm curious if you would start by sharing just a little bit about what drives that vision for you.
Well, Paolo Solari, I came across his work right after I came across Buckminster Fuller, and he talks about a concept called arcology, which is architecture and ecology integrated together. This is some recent AI image that I just found, and you can see how ecologically integrated.
Oh, it's so you've got us on the edge of our seats, Harlan. You keep disappearing and you hold the wisdom within your mind.
For EcoCity. Arco Santi, which he started building in 1970, exists, and I spent the
I've been in relationships like this before. Let's give him a moment to see if he comes back into strong connection.
integrated environment, which in my mind I can see it and I can feel
Hey,
it.
Harlan. Hey, Harlan. Can we pause you for 1 second? Because you keep freezing. So you're leaving us just on the edge of our seats. So can you just gonna take it back? Just like a couple of
Maybe
paragraphs.
to the meeting, to the intersection of architecture and ecology.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Usually my internet works pretty good. Let's pray it's going to stay on. So, I mean, to answer your question about that, I think you might have heard about Paolo Solari and arcology being architecture and ecology integrated together so that, and I don't know of any true examples of it. I know I can see it in my mind, I can feel it, what it would really look like, but I don't know if there's any place that truly embodies this ultimate concept of building an ecologically integrated living in habitation. And that's so briefly, like you walk out your door and all of your neighbors and all your gardens and everything is integrated in just the most harmonious beauty, where we grow our own food. I don't know. It's hard to put into words. And that's why I'm inviting other people to voice their visions, because I think it goes way beyond what I'm thinking and feeling. And my idea is that we all do it together and inspire each other. So that said, would either of you like to follow up and hopefully not drop out?
Thank you for that, Harlan. Alai, would you care to share where your heart comes from when you
Yeah.
think this question?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had the pleasure of knowing Harlan for a bit, and he's come and done some of his presentations at one of my events, and we've done a podcast together diving deep into these concepts, where I reflect on my visions for the new earth. And as I was reflecting on what I wanted to share today, I realized that I have kind of just three core aspects to my vision for a harmonious future in symbiosis with the earth for humanity. The first of those being the archaic revival, which is a concept coined by Terence McKenna, but obviously spans far beyond that. And for me, that's the synthesis of the indigenous, the ancient, nomadic, mythic world with the technological advancements of the modern world. Ultimately, I see it as a balance between the masculine and the feminine energies of our collective and humanity, which we can achieve being in this unique position in the present now, being able to look back on the benefits and the creations of the matriarchal nomadic societies and the positive life affirming energies and products, I guess, of the patriarchal society, and synthesizing them into something that's pro-life, that's beneficial for all of us. I think that we see this archaic revival coming through even in its adolescent stages, through the spread of plant medicine and indigenous culture becoming quite mainstream now. A lot of people that may have, financial people, tech people are now going off and going to plant medicine ceremonies as business trips. So that's, I think, something that was probably quite unexpected a few years ago. The second aspect for me for the vision of the new earth is something that I call the phantasial renaissance. And I think of this as, seeing each of us as a citizen of our inner universe, our inner worlds, and each of us seeing it as a responsibility to nurture our techniques, nurture our skill sets and our wisdom, because we see it as a responsibility to eloquently and skillfully express the intricate languages of our inner cultures and lands that only we really can know. And so, the value in bringing that into the world. And ultimately, the basis for all of this, which is quite obvious, but I think worth talking about, is just honoring life and sustainability on this earth. This is the basis of any of this, for any of this to happen. So I see this as organic technology, natural architecture, like Harlan is talking about, utilizing the energy of the wind, the rain, the sun and recognizing them as technologies, and just honoring the earth and everything that we do. And I think that this is preceded by a spiritual relationship with the earth where we honor the earth. I think of Thomas Berry and what he talks about in this book I'd recently read from him, The Dream of the Earth, where he says that we can't fight to stop poisoning our earth through law and logic and science only. It can only truly happen when we get to a point where we could never even imagine poisoning the earth, because she's our great mother and we have that real relationship with her. And it would be just a total shame and disgrace to ever not only put these chemicals into the water and into the soil, but to even think of making them in the first place. So I think that all of these come together and just weave together to ultimately create a balance of enlivening the artistic, fluid, feminine, spiralic aspects of the human, and really giving them more of a stage to balance them out with the amazing technological, scientific, legal strides that we've made in the past few decades centuries. So yeah, that's my input.
Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.
And it's lovely watching the evolution, you know, from Harlan's vision of catalyzing this new earth into your calling forth the archaic revival and this return to an indigeneity and relationship to place that comes from this moment in time that we are. And you know, for me in my work in creating the artwork that I create, but also in, you know, my deeper hopes and deeper offering that I hope to make into the world, I look at some of these ways of knowing that are passed down to us from a long time ago. And, you know, Harlan, I don't know that we've never built a fully ecologically integrated architecture, but maybe it's been thousands of years since we last did. And when I look at, I mean, for me, a land that my ancestry ties back to is England, and the great artifact that lives there is Stonehenge. And I look at the system of knowledge that lives around that space where, you know, it is functioning both as a temporal calendar, but is also built in the proportions that you would need to live in the myth that's being told in that space and in the science that's being charted there. I mean, very literally, the proportions of the moon and the Earth are shrunk from thousands of miles down to tens of feet to create this like brilliant calculator of eclipses and full moons and new moons. And you know, and you can go and stand there, and there is this kind of opening in one's awareness that comes from the meeting both of time and space in a space like that. And so, you know, for me, it's kind of a boring thing to offer into a conversation where we're talking about justice and we're talking about, you know, ecological restoration, but the actual way that we measure space and we measure time feels foundational to my vision for our return to a space of understanding. You know, when I think about the way that we chart our calendar, you know, we still refer back to the Pope upon whom it is based, and it comes, you know, our months are still miscategorized based on these Roman emperors that got tossed into the middle of them. And you know, the true the kind of simplicity that comes when you start to chart time in a different way. If you divide time up into, you know, 13 divisions of 28 days with an extra day or sometimes an extra 2 days left over to keep you calibrated, all of a sudden your own personal relationship to the cycles of time and our interrelationship with one another shifts profoundly. And so that is my, you know, in this short period of time, the thing that I would add to this puzzle piece. And it's certainly, you know, something I know that informs both of your thinking and work as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that I like to say that the magic is in the mundane and just getting to the most basic element, which is the fact that we exist in space-time, and understanding how our relation to space-time and the way that we're interacting with it is dictating our reality, and that urban planners are creating the world that we live in. And so who are they and what are their principles? That's really important.
So well, you brought up something which I kind of started to touch on in the beginning of my intro video, of this indigenous Aboriginal consciousness, of a shift of consciousness, which has already existed. And thinking about an ecologically integrated environment, what about the ancient Anasazi cliff dwellings, or Chaco Canyon, where you see these incredible ruins of the Native Americans that lived in these, you know, very urban environments? Or even I lived in Taos, New Mexico. There still is the Taos Pueblo that's nearly 1,000 years old. That's an urban environment. And just the way that, you know, the Aborigines in Australia, or in the indigenous of all the continents of the world, Africa and the Americas, you know, lived in these much more simple tribal ways. And, you know, the Western culture, Western consciousness, the Western mechanistic, scientific, reductionist way of thinking is what predicates the way that we're building our current, roads and shopping malls and tract homes and skyrise buildings. And so my understanding is, it's not so much if we design this kind of ecologically integrated environment based in this same old Western mindset, it's going to just be a slight alteration of it. It really comes down to the shifting of the consciousness, shifting of how we see us, like you say, a space-time being incarnated into a physical form, and then starting from there in a new, more expanded, holistic, heart-centered awareness of everything being connected. And then I feel like these environments just will grow naturally. It's like growing cities. And once we tune into the principle of how all life exists in a harmonious, reciprocal way, when you walk into the middle of a forest, that's far away from where any humans in the wilderness. Do you see trash? No, but there's all this life going on because it's all being recycled naturally. Everything has its flow. And our cities will eventually be just like the middle of the wilderness, but humans in tune with that same consciousness. So I think that's the best explanation, is thinking more in terms of the way we think about it, the shift and the spirit of it, rather than the coming down to like, how are we going to design it? What materials are we going to use? Where do we put the plants? What does it look like? That will all just follow. So there's my a way to maybe sum up what this panel is about, and how we can bring about these new Earth visions to make them a reality. So anybody else wants some closing remarks to finish this one off, and then I'll just mention again that I'll be in the main salon talking about the vision of that 12 spiral city that was mentioned briefly. But thank you both for joining me today, and thank you for everyone who came to be part of this. So
yeah, I would love to close with a poem, if that's okay.
Sure.
This is a poem that I wrote inspired by what it is like to be a member of this fantastical renaissance that I spoke about. And hopefully it inspires us to continue on the journey. Truly talented musicians can be found in the forest, deep amongst the earth and far from the cities. Will you find children of the stars and the flowers, of the water and the trees, of the never-ceasing belief in magic, and their right to a mythical journey in life. We seek solace in the silence of tall grass and tell the clouds of our confusion and awe. We recite our poetry to the crashing tides before diving into them. We love freely and freakishly for the sake of being the most mysterious and open-hearted romance one may find, and we collect stories and tricks as our treasures and share them so that they may be collected by others as keepsakes, creating the constellations of reality webs, which only we may be the maps for. For that is the trick, to realize that we can release trying to externalize our wisdom. We need only to embody to our highest capacity and allow it all to fade with us. Trust that the stories that cast upon our soul print have been made worth the journey, and that we have added to the collective record, off to dance again. And with that, I just want to thank you guys for this time of envisioning and coming to share our visions of what this future world holds for us. And just, it makes me so happy to see that we are doing that, not only in DSS, but in each of our personal lives.
And Alai, you're doing your own presentation, I think, at some point in a little while. Do you know?
Yeah, it's a pre-recorded video because it's 5 a.m. for me. I'm gonna maybe go back to bed after this.
Is that here or in the main room? Do you know?
No, that's next door at Beaming. Both Alai and I go there a little bit later in our run here. Yeah,
Cool.
and she'll share something, and then I'll share a bit about my work of following infinity to curious places.
Okay.
Beautiful.
We'll see you there. And
thank you, Ari.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harlan.
Yeah, thanks to the both of you. That's really lovely. Wow, it's so sweet and wonderful to hear you both speak with the inspiration that you carry, and yeah, that poem Alai was really warmed my heart. So if you want more of what Alai is up to, follow us over to Beaming in a little while, and see you all back at in the main station for Harlan's talk later in the day today. I am now going to turn us from this panel to talking textile engineering, light industry, and textile art with Alexandra Elekes-Csatári. I am almost certain that I have mangled that beautiful last name in some way, and I'll ask her to tell me exactly how when we bring her up. But Alexandra is a textile engineer and designer who breathes life into discarded objects, promoting sustainable practices, and shared creativity. Alexandra, welcome to the stage, and please tell me how to say your last name.
Thank you, Eric. So, Elekes-Csatári is my last name, but you pronounce it pretty good. Thank you.
But I did my best. Well, please, we look very much forward to hearing what you have to share.
Okay, thank you. So, oh yeah, screen sharing, I guess. Okay. So, hello, yeah. Today, I want to take you on a journey that started in a tiny village in Hungary. Oops. Surrounded by the wonders of nature. Growing up with parents who worked tirelessly, I found comfort in creation, giving new meaning to my surroundings. It was a fortunate twist of fate because, as they say, boredom breeds creativity. So, in a household where pocket money wasn't involved, I turned to crafting usable items from broken household items, primarily textiles. Little did I know this humble beginning would shape my destiny, instilling in me a superpower, the ability to find new meaning and function in any available material. Not just for the end product, but for the sheer joy of creation and play. Fast forward more than a quarter of a century, here I am still driven by the same passion. However, as I grew, so did my awareness of the environmental havoc wreaking the textile industry. With a background in light industrial engineering and a flair for textiles, I even run a company for both canvases and upholstery. Yet the nagging feeling persisted that need to understand the bigger picture to create something meaningful for everyone. And so I find myself standing before you today with a plan still in its infancy, but bubbling with potential. The problem at the forefront of my mind is the environmental and social impact caused by the fast fashion industry. We all know it's impossible to miraculously change every consumer overnight, especially when unconscious consumers outnumber conscious ones. So fast fashion is on the rise and environmental catastrophes loom on the horizon. So how do we navigate this challenge? So here's where my concept takes center stage. Revolutionary space, both virtual and physical, focusing on fashion and the needs of fashion consumers. It's a system that melts the virtual and the physical wardrobes, tackling overconsumption by using time as a divider. Let me paint a vivid picture. So in our vibrant workshops. Individuals from diverse backgrounds come together, not just to craft designer items, but to forge connections, share stories, and reveal in the joy of creation. So these workshops became hubs for creativity, where base materials and used products sourced through existing recycling routes and transformed into high quality designer items. The items aren't randomly crafted. They made from factory offcuts and used items, ensuring a complete recycling loop. Now, imagine these unique items becoming available for rent, creating a symbiotic relationship between creators and creators and customers. Renting is not just a financial transaction. Of course, it's an opportunity for the community to actively engage. But after a month of use, individuals can renew their item, not just with money, but by contributing to the community through challenges, creating content, sharing daily insights, and actively participating in community initiatives. Wow. It's more than a vision. It's a living reality we're weaving together. It's about breathing life into items, making them a part of someone's story, and building a community that grows stronger with each shared experience. So I invite you to join us on our journey toward sustainable, community-driven fashion. Well, together we can turn the fashion industry upside down and create a world where every item tells a story and every story contributes to a better future. And I think that was it. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Alexandra. I think that I have mentioned this before, but we have someone from the previous cohort named Melissa Lockwood, and I would love to connect you with her because she also works in the realm of fast fashion and helping to reduce fashion industry waste. And actually, I had the opportunity to meet her when we did Becoming the Regenaissance in Miami for the second cohort. And coincidentally enough, I don't know, you can't really see it because I can't really back up very much, but I'm actually wearing my dress that I bought from her, which is made out of fashion industry waste. You can't really tell. I saw it on her clothing rack, and I just had to buy it. So yeah, I would love to, I'll actually drop her website in the chat, and also encourage you, if you have any links where people can find out about your project, please drop them in the chat as well so that we can let everybody know what you're working on. But I just looked down and I was like, oh, speaking of reducing waste, what a beautiful coincidence. So thank you so much. I am going to bring up Tayo real quick. And Tayo, I don't think I can spotlight you until you've got your camera on.
Sorry.
Where'd you go?
Right.
There you are.
This feels like home already.
Yeah. Perfect. I love that. I think that yeah, there is a big part of this community when we do get to either connect on spaces like this, or when we get to meet in person. Like I said, meeting Melissa at in Miami a couple years ago, a few of us that are going to be in the Bay Area for the Buckminster Fuller Institute fundraiser. I actually saw on our some of our alumni channels that 3 of our former cohort members were actually had an opportunity to meet up in at COP28. So yeah, I think that what we are trying to build here does feel like a lot like home.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the pleasure of hearing all about Feel the Sensation of a New Human with Taiyo Akamoto. And Taiyo experiments through various media to transmute a tender reality. And I think that's such a beautiful description of how I've come to know you with this short time together. So really looking forward to hearing what you have to share.
Okay, so I'll share the screen. Okay, play. So, so everyone, so I am Taiyo Okamoto. I am a Japanese artist living in the city, and as an introduction to my presentation, I would like to share a little about myself because it deeply relates to the project that I'm in mind. Art has been with me since I was 3 years old. I had the firm dream of becoming a painter. My focus shifted more to film in junior high, and I actually moved to New York with the intention of becoming a film director. However, I began to work as a film journalist for over 10 years. This is how I was able to meet and interview 2 of my favorite filmmakers, Alejandro Jodorowsky and Nobuhiko Obayashi. Director Obayashi and I had a great connection, and I ended up appearing in his movie released in 2017, which has shown in many international film festivals all over the world. I took a path to live as an artist after turning 30. Even though I'm using paper paint, water, body, photography, and many more to convey my artistic expression, my art is not about what I create, but always in the way I live. When cohort 3 began, I met Shane Williams in a breakout room on the very first day. And he showed us a few pictures of the Azores in the middle of Atlantic Ocean where he lives. And as soon as I saw those pictures, I heard within me, welcome home. When I saw the island for the first time, something within me activated. So trusting that intuition, an idea fell on me. It might be fun to make a film on that island. I knew that I could create something mystical. I believe that resonating with Design Science Studio, we are all, whether consciously or unconsciously, already living in the new Earth timeline. The old way of living was to fit yourself into something that was the correct answer. But on New Earth, we are just as we are, being natural, with no need to strive, and we are forgiven. I would like to realize a short film which evokes these feelings within us. That means that what's more important is something more subtle and intangible than a 3-dimensional physical concept of the new Earth. It is sensation. Now I would like to present the story I have in mind using the AI-generated images I made for the Salon. A Japanese anthropologist somehow wakes up on a mysterious island. he witnesses an environment full of alive nature like heaven. There he finds human beings living in a completely different way, free from the identity of human beings that we have. This is like an evocative proposal for a new way of being human through the eyes of this anthropologist. What kind of identities have we attached to humans? For example, humans never stop fighting, humans are destroying the nature of the earth, or humans are foolish. And the funny thing is that we did not come up with those ideas. Everyone who is watching or listening to this right now did not come up with this on their own. And if we pick up those concepts in our childhood, we recruit them unconsciously and we start to live believing as if they're our own ideas and truth. We attach concepts and identities to ourselves too, so that many people feel constrained and can't be as they are. We hear, because I'm this way, or because I have this personality, but that's not us. Also, we attach negative impressions onto negative emotions, such as fear, shame, or guilt. Therefore, we want to get rid of them, but that's not possible because they are an essential part of us. So in this film, I want to show a new way of being human, a new coexistence with the new earth, and at the same time, an element of letting go of the identities that we have attached onto ourselves and emotions. In the film, I don't intend to strongly present a model that says this is what new humans should do, because I don't want to put us in a box. Rather, through the main character, I want audience to feel the sensation of what it is like to be a new human being, and how a new human being vibrates. I would like this film to be a portal for people to access that kind of universal essence. If I talk a little more about the details on this, then I would like to have a lead actor who has lived and worked within structure, because I want to make this film in the process of them loosening and relaxing themselves into the vision of a new human, the new earth. So it's not about, can you play this role? Rather, it's very important to know how the person feels. And the same goes not only for the, and the same goes not only for the other actors, but with the staff and collaborators as well, because it's not possible to extract a new state of being out of the old state of being. So, and as Albert Einstein said, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. This project is in its initial phase, and I'm currently working on the story. And I believe that Buckminster Fuller's philosophy, think globally, act locally, also applies to filmmaking, or I could say that it's very cinematic, because if a complete film is the whole, then it has many local aspects, such as screenplay, cinematography, sound mixing, music, costumes, you know. So when I enter the next phase, where I can see a clearer vision of the whole, I will need people who can support those aspects. from the film from the film work I did in Japan, I made connections with actors, some of whom I'm friends with, and we've been talking about the possibility of creating something, some kind of project together. If cohort members are curious about this, I would love to collab. And as the filming will take place in overseas, we'll need a budget, so sponsors are also welcome too. I'm looking to visit the Azores this spring so I can scout filming locations. Design Science Studio is an environment where everyone is forgiven. So I feel like I can, just genuinely speak about what I want to work on, even though it's still a baby. I just, presented this project just like a teenage boy talks about his dream, but talking genuinely about what's in my mind is the first step of realization. So with trust, I enjoyed sharing this with you today. Thank you for listening.
I feel like after seeing some of these visuals, just want to stop and feel into the sensation of, this new world that you want to create. And I do hope that you will connect with Clara, who actually has land on the Azores and is working on creating I think a eco village. So I think that if you're looking for shooting locations, I think that she would be a beautiful person to connect with. I think one of the things that was coming to mind for me while I was watching your presentation is seeing those images of people dancing and all of these beautiful wild scenery and being just looking at those images really just took me away. So I can't even imagine what the film is going to be like. And I think seeing that really made me excited for our next presenter, who is going to be talking about rewilding the futures, or our futures imagination.
It was
so
really fun making those AI images.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did really, yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Jonathan, for coming up for your next our next talk.
Am I able to share screen? Thank you, Tayo, for oh my gosh, such a juicy vision and such a, I think you used the word gentle and forgiveness, and it really melted my heart at the possibility of looking forward.
So while you're getting ready to share your screen, let me just tell a little bit about you. Jonathan Ashung is a designer researching regenerative futures under the moniker Apophenia. Am I saying that right? Apophenia?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right.
Yeah, and yeah, so I created this presentation just as a Tayo, your words were so poetic about sharing this sort of becoming today, and putting things out as a speculation, and just a trial of a new self and a new vision. And so much of what has been shared today has already been so inspiring and part of this imaginal realm that we're all co-creating. And I feel like even if you've been with us in this room listening, perhaps you're already in that space, but if you're not, maybe take a second to take a breath, slow down, close your eyes perhaps, and enter this sort of visualization or memory or dreaming sort of space, where you can start to imagine a dream of the far future. Going there, taking in some sights, some feelings, some sounds. And I'm borrowing from Leah had just had such a beautiful presentation earlier today where we weaved that story of the far future, and asking ourselves, you know, what's in that world? Who else is there? What kind of lives and beings are there? How do people communicate, learn? Yeah, I'm going to share today some, I guess, some techniques or tools for working with the far future, and ways of viewing that. And so when you hold in that space, that far future, I'd be curious if anyone's here today, if they wanted to share in the chat. There were such beautiful words that were being used. I wish I grabbed a screenshot of that far future that we weave together. Working with that vision, you know, I wanted to introduce another exercise, which is sort of as I was reflecting about the design science decade and why we're all here, in a way we are seeding this future civilization that we're building together, or this future world in the far future. We're stewarding it to life. And so maybe one provocation and one curiosity I have is, you know, this is an exercise of the time machine. So if you fast forward a decade, that future civilization, the question I have is, like, what gifts or creations would you send to 2035 if you could, in order to enable that world, that beautiful world that you see as possible? And so I'll just pause a minute or two here. If there's anyone wants to share in the chat, any sort of gifts that they would put in the time capsule for towards the future. And there's been wonderful shares up till now, but just take a moment. And so just speaking for me, you know, as a technologist, we have access to amazing tools, screens, beautiful things at our disposal. But when I do speak to people or do this type of exercise, often find that the items that they choose come from this place of like high technology. I love it. Thank you, Alexandra. Wonderful. Yes, there's such beauty in that. The loom, the sewing machine, air in a jar. Yeah. And I wonder, thanks, Bliss. Yeah. Technology of creating rituals of belonging. Wonderful. I love that. Yeah, when I was writing this prompt, I initially had called it 3 things, or 3, I think I used the word things. And I think what's so amazing about this community is it understands that the future might not be solved by like a tool or a product, right? Or some new invention, perhaps, right? A spirit or a way of being or a practice. those are gifts that we're also generating into the future. And I think Time Machine is it's interesting from just this physical metaphor, like you have to actually put an item in there per se, but I think that's doesn't really coincide with the way I feel this community really thinks about the gifts that they bring towards the future. So yeah, it shows us in this exercise from the answers that were shared, you know, what is the world needing? What does the future need to reach that dream world that we want? And so, as I had mentioned, like when doing this exercise with other groups of people, what you notice is that, or what I notice is that future imaginaries are constrained by media depictions of the future. And I live in the West. I'm calling in from Austin, Texas. And a lot of our popular imagery is sci-fi, it's dystopic, right? And you'll see this in the thinking and the ideas that come through when you open the space for these type of thoughts about the far future. Bring in a quote, especially around our imaginations being limited by capitalism. Mark Fisher, when describing capitalist realism, says, he quotes Slavoj Žižek, "It's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism." But we all know the opposite is also true, that we all may be aware of this, this quote by Ursula Le Guin. "We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. So did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art, and very often in our art, the art of words." And so recently I've been really enjoying a lot of these fictional worlds that are built by different media, pop punk, solar punk, cli-fi, agrarian futures, utopianism. If folks have other beautiful stories that they've been inspired by, please feel free to share in the chat. Recommend you picking up any of these books for just reimagining what the future might look like. And when you look at this media genre as a theme and some of the beautiful worlds that have been weaved already today, they're sort of like tropes that we're trying to unlearn some of the modernity and the stories that get told in these fictions. So less escapism, more rootedness in place, less disaster, more awakening. Interestingly, the word for apocalypse, one of the roots for apocalypse is from a Greek word that actually means the disclosing, the uncovering, the revealing. And so apocalypse doesn't necessarily mean disaster, just a great reveal. Less focus on an individual genius, more on a collective genius. Buckminster Fuller's less weaponry, more livingry, from saving the world to serving the world. Less acceleration, more distribution. There are more themes, and happy to have you play with these ideas in your thinking and world building. And wanted to share a few more tools for describing worlds. As artists and dreamers, we are unlocking the possibility of these futures. So your audience dreams through your dreams. And so the question is, what are the worlds that you're shaping with and for your audience? One tool for doing this is a tool from Futurism called STEEP. They're lenses through which to view future worlds. I actually added an S as well because So STEEP stands for social, technological, environmental, economic, political. I added a S because of this group in particular. There's a lot of appetite and, you know, speaking to the spiritual dimension, the role of the view of the human within the overall context, and the myths and beliefs that we have. And so these are different lenses with which to analyze your work and the future. Another tool when describing worlds is the Fool. Actually was used by Leah in a way earlier. When you imagine yourself being an elder, you're actually speaking to a fool, a child, usually a naive character, sometimes an alien, a traveler, amnesiac, who reveals the logic of your world because they have big questions about it. How's it work? Why is it like this? They get to ask naive questions. And so in this solar punk novel, A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, it's a two-part series called The Monk and Robot. And interestingly, there was previously someone had spoke to that union of spirit, monk, and robot technology. And the robot asked, you know, the monk, who just apologized to this gnat that it killed as he was preparing dinner. And the robot asked, is this typical to apologize to things you kill? And the robot says, yeah, or the monk says, yes. And then the robot asks, did you apologize to each of these plants individually as you harvested them, or in aggregate? And the monk reveals, we don't apologize to plants. And so the Fool is able to reveal the conundrums within your world and ask these questions as a visitor. So sections around self and story to close. You know, I live in the West. I recognize that it's a privilege to be able to envision the future. I know that not all of us have the same amount of privileges, but at least for me, yeah, I consider it a great privilege. And I acknowledge that it's not just imagination that's limiting futures, but there's also material resources that prevent many other people from envisioning alternatives to the current day, or to their current realities. So I feel that I can use that privilege to examine the stories that I hold and create space to tell stories of collective thriving. And so what I mean by examining the stories of self, you know, there's an inquiry for ourselves, and a lot of these topics have been brought up in various ways. How do you relate to these different elements of storytelling to today's myth that we live in? How do you define success? How do you define ownership? What is your relationship to the living world? Who do you look up to? Who are the heroes in your story or your civilization? And then asking where your stories come from. What lands, from whom, what purpose do they serve? What are their parables? And do we want to inherit those stories, or tell new ones, or discover better ones that serve the civilizations that we want to build, or the futures that we want to? And so I'll just close a little bit personally in terms of my own story, my own name. So on the left is my Chinese name. My ancestry is from Hong Kong, which is a colony. And the translations of this is my last name, which means flood. But my given name, it's embedded in a story about success. It's the translations are about ambition, aspiration, and largeness, bigness, right? And my English name, you know, this is my first and middle name, were given to assimilate to a sort of a Western gaze. Sometimes I joke this is like the waspiest, that like country club type name. And so, yeah, just looking at those stories and like why they are the way that they are, what stories or wishes were passed on from previous generations. And, becoming the Regenaissance for me is reclaiming a name. So apprenticing to the natural world, and an interrelated consciousness, and as part of regenerative futures. And so, again, this is just a small birth, a small seed right now, a spore of a future practice. And yeah, I thank you for being with me today and allowing me to share.
Thank you, Jonathan. One thing that you that I didn't quite catch, you said shifting the focus from unique genius to something seenness. Is that? Can you repeat what that was?
Yeah, scenius. That is a term, believe. Musician. I'm blanking on his name. Oh, it's Brian Eno. Yeah, and I think actually, I think also Stephen Bao is very fond of this term in terms of what we're building here in the DSS. Is sort of like, while we all are artists in our own right, how is it like a movement that actually the genius is within the community? It's not within an individual work or an artist.
Yeah, the community is the project, he likes to say.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for that. I got a lot out of it, and I'm wondering, you mentioned the steep format and adding the S for spirituality, and I'm wondering what Robert, I think Suarez from Planet Home, who came and talked during the second cohort and ran us through the steep format. I wonder what his thoughts would be for adding that extra S and continuing on that framework.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of the futurist, sometimes it's so synonymous with technology and things, and like the viewpoints and the ways that we view the world is bucketed, like having its own space for that is an important part of the future that we are trying to build.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you
You're
for
welcome. Thank you
sharing that. And before I introduce Melina, I want to say thank you to everybody that has joined us in the room today. I think the conversation so far has been lovely, and I think one of the things that has really been coming forward to me, or for me, is really seeing like every person that has shared so far. I've been really able to connect the dots between someone that has been in a previous cohort before, and someone that has come and shared with us in the past as a visionary, and really like focusing in on the community is the project, and how important that is here at the studio, and how important it is to really continue on with that vision. And just wanted to give a little reminder that today is a fundraising event, and we are trying to work towards our goal of raising $65,000 to help offset some of the scholarships that we have given out this year. One of the biggest things with the studio is that no one will be turned away for lack of funding. Everybody is welcome. If you want to be in this program, in this community, we will work as hard as we can to make sure that you are here and you are amplified. And in order to do that, we need to continue funding that program. So I'd like to drop the fundraising campaign in the chat again one more time, and in case you may have missed it in some of the other sessions, this year 76% of people that are in the program this year are on some sort of scholarship, and I would say a very large percent of that very large percentage are on a full scholarship. So really making sure that this program is not only accessible to everybody that wants to be here, no matter who they are, where they are, what their background is, really making sure that we can get their voice out. Oh my gosh, I think, is this number 15 of me getting verklempt? I have lost track of how many times I've gotten teary today. But yeah, thank you. If you can, please share to the campaign. Please help us get the word out about the campaign so that not only we can continue sharing everybody's voice, but yeah, getting the change that we want to see in the world. So I'm going to drop that in the chat, and then I'm going to try to not get teary-eyed again while I can introduce Melina. We'll see how I do, Melina. I'm sorry.
No problem. That's what is life.
What's that?
That's what is alive now.
Yeah, exactly. And we are about to talk about what is life. And Melina is a biologist, an evolutionary biologist, a biomimicry professional, a biosphere translator, and regenerator. And I am so excited to find out what all of those things are and what it is that you do and what is life.
Thank you, Bliss, and thank you everyone to be here. My inquiry about what is life has been my inspiration from I was a little girl, and what I have been coming about what is life is something that I can call a mystery. Like, is the real plunge into something that we don't know, but that we are tracking and tracking and tracking. So today I want to give you a sense of what we have described as life from many perspectives, especially biology. So I will be giving you some senses of how life behaves, and also trying to bring a little bit of the bridge between what we call life and what we call our life. So I just want to share my screen. And so, yeah, this is a basic exploration on what is life. And the first thing that I want to do is to open the space for integration. So to nourish the mind, to nourish the understanding thing. But before to start there, I just want us, all of us, just to stretch a little bit, because we have been kind of hearing a lot. So just take a time just to, like, give a space for the mind to be nourished. Just mind yourself to be nourished, and shake a little bit your head, your hands, and to bring yourself just to, like, kind of listen a little bit of scientific knowledge first, and then we will see what happens with our own life. So we have this image from the Apollo, which is very famous because it was the first image that humanity knew from space, of the Earth from space. And when we see the planet and this blue thing that we call oxygen is oxygen, and water has oxygen, so is water as well. We come to understand that the planet is an amazing place for us to live and for many organisms to live. And the thing that happens when we see, for example, the Amazon, which is this huge area on the planet with biodiversity and covered with biodiversity, we see all these trees and all these organisms. And what is really going on here is that all these plants are producing terpenes and are producing molecules that will go to the atmosphere in order to start, and bacteria go with that, start to crystallize the water in the atmosphere to produce rain. So something that we are not very aware of is that biodiversity and the biosphere actually regulates the climate. So what it is related with climate change is this loss of biodiversity. And this is very complex to explain to many people, especially in the realms of the decision makers and the economy makers, the financial markets and so on. But it is the simplest thing that we can observe, just putting some attention of what the planet does. And actually, this particular peculiarity is that the biosphere, this little layer that covers the planet, is totally depending on all the microorganisms and all the organisms that we can find, especially in the soil. The soil is the most important part of this planet. And the soil on the emerged land, but also the soil in the oceans and watersheds, which are not just the bottom of the watershed, but the microorganisms that they are there. So when we see this planet from entropy perspective, from the loss of energy, we can have this sense of what is, where in the planet is absorbing the heat. You know, like when the reflection of the sun arrives to the earth, it reflects heat, and this heat is reflected mostly in the supratropical areas. The poles are blue because they are cold, but if you see these blue spots on the emerged land of the tropics, these are the most diverse regions of the planet. They are hotspots for biodiversity, which means that biodiversity just captures energy. They are not reflecting entropy. And what does it mean is that the aliveness of organisms are just taking the energy from the sun and putting them in form of Amazon forest, in form of Congo's forest, or the Indonesian forest, which means huge amount of relationships and huge amount of complexity. So everything in those soils are alive. If you see the Amazon soil is very poor in nutrients. If you see, because every leaf that falls from a tree, it will decompose in 2 hours. It's alive. All the organic matter is inside living organisms. So the tropical core of the planet is very important to carry information about the evolution, how to evolve, how we can foster our diversity and our all possibilities to evolve should come from the tropical core of the planet. There are a lot of information about that in the tropics and the capability of making relationships. And sometimes that's why some tropical Latin American, we are called like the chaotic people, but it is because we are kind of in this disproportional absorbing force from the sun. So a lot of energy coming from the sun. And this is an image that probably many of you know already, but this is all the water in volume in relationship with the volume of the planet. So that's the water we have. And if we think that every living being depends on water, we have not much water. So this is a limit of space, or like a condition, a situation, just to thrive as a living being. But evolution developed in water, especially from the beginning of life, let's say 3.8 billion years ago, until something about 400 million years ago, which is a long time. Like the most part of the life in the planet, it has been in water, in the oceans. And I want to bring one part of this evolution that it is showing us how radical collaboration is the most amazing thing that we can do at this moment for human beings. I present you the choanocyte, which is a unicellular organism who has this flagella, and they are very, very old on the planet. And they started to collaborate with another kind of cell called amebocyte. And the amebocyte and the choanocyte started to, like a kind of stick together. And the flagellum of the choanocyte started to bring kind of suck particles from the water so it can transfer to the amebocyte. And their relationship started to evolve, and they started to include a little bit more structure and kind of differentiation of these functions. And the amebocyte was able to transfer food and information to other parts of this structure. And finally, they developed, when they developed these 5 types of cells, that it was so cohesive as collaboration that they totally changed their lifestyle. And these are the choanocyte, the amebocyte, but also the sclerocytes, the porocytes, and the pinacocytes. The pinacocytes will make like kind of a epiderm, and the porocyte started to be like the surrounding porous. So they made just like a donut, like a toroid, through which the water flowed. And the sclerocyte started to make some spiculas from silicon, from sand. And in this way, they started to collaborate, reorganizing themselves in this self-organization process to create a sponge. And a sponge was the first multicellular organism on planet Earth. And the amazing thing is that the sponges is just another completely huge scale that were the single cells. Like they just dream out a completely new future, Jonathan, like a completely new scale for them, like a completely unknown possibilities of why there was the evolutionary possibility for them. So the sponges are the proof for how radical collaboration can change the scale. And from my perspective as an evolutionary biologist, I believe that that's the step that we are kind of mimicking now. like the scale at which we have to dream out our new revolutionary, our regenaissance, is that kind of change of scale. So what happened when we are just concentrated in what the humans are like? We think a lot about individuals, but nature just has 3 levels of organization, and the individuals are normally put in communities. Like we are the community of Bogota, or the community of San Francisco, or whatever we are. And I would like to ask you this equation. What is the answer for this? What do you think that is the 3rd level of organization? Somebody wants to say something?
We have some things in the chat there.
Oh.
Yeah, Melina, while we're giving everybody just a second to ask or to respond in the chat, I just wanted to let you know that I need to shift back to the main session on the vision train. So I'm going to make you the host.
Okay.
So that the recording and stuff doesn't get lost. And whenever you are done, y'all can just filter on back to the vision train. Thank you. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt too much.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Liz. So parties, ecosystems. Okay, we can say that that's kind of the way we are thinking about this, but actually is relationships. The relationship is the emergent level that emerges from the connections between individuals in a community. And if you see that can be any level of organization, cells that are organizing in a community, and they produce pluricellular and sponge, or ourselves when we arrive to a new course, for example, at DSS, and we start to listen to each other, see each other's work, and we started to have affinities. And we started to connect with people that we feel affinity. That is the emergent, alive thing that is happening to us when we are in a new community. So in order to really foster evolution, we have to prove or to say how evolution, how these relationships, these emergent relationships start to happen. And that's very, 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 very rare to find in our society. We try always to plan ahead and to put on top of the community what should be happening. And we don't listen to emergence. So it's super important to understand that we are being natural by having affinity in relationships and create subgroups to connect with other, like to start passing life through us. So this is one of the lessons that I've learned from sponges. This is the emergence of functional connections, but the function is not necessarily found out at the beginning. Like the function is something that you can describe afterwards. So it's really interesting, the function thing. And this is my representation of those 3 levels, where the praxis is at the emergent level, the ethos is at the individual level, and the ideas are in the community level. So we have to trust our ideas doing this. And I want to show you something that nature does. And I want to ask you how this, if you think that this is as natural as we weave, for example? Or what do you think about a bird that is managing his environment and taking resources from the environment to transform it into something different? And this is an ability that birds have learned and developed. And actually weavers and our more primigenial ancestors. It is thought that the first object, it was a bag, no? Copied from the birds. And they show themselves their nests, especially for the females. In this species, are the males are the weavers. So the female can try and test the nest before to go with the male and see how the nest gonna be beforehand. And this thing of having a home, building something to get into, nature brings us this perspective of not just like the reproduction part of it, but what does it mean to create something? And I want to ask you, what it is the most important thing of a house or a nest or a terrier? How do you say the fox's houses? Like a cave, like something inside the earth, just to have the babies or to pass the winter or whatever. What is the most important aspect of creating these kind of structures? Who dares? Chat open, okay. Yeah, spaces for radical interaction. I sometimes we think about the house or something like the structure in itself, like the roof or the walls, you know. But this is something that I learned from Japan, and it is the space inside, the absence of rain, the absence of cold, or the absence of, you know, it's kind of the space that contains you. You know, you want to be contained into this absence of anything, you know, like anything that it is outside. And I think that this is very, very powerful, because to contemplate, we normally from the Western societies, we contemplate the space as or, you know, like we are going toward the essence of things. What is your essence? We talk about essence in such a way that it is like a feeling everything. We have something that it is there and it is totally full. But when you arrive there, it's empty. Is what it is, the space of the absence of something in order to give birth to something else, to create something else. So what it is more important to understand in this metaphor that nature is telling us about a home, it is the absence of, is the ma. And I will show you, I will show you some videos on nature, and I want you to try to feel as if it is you, okay? Just to try to resonate on what this organism is showing you, and feel like if it is you. And I would like to invite you to just to resonate in such a way with the organism that you can feel this space, this this absence of in yourself, in your body, like in your being, in your becoming now. Look at this one. Oh, no, sorry. There is no sound in the video. Thank you. This is the kind of becomings, of just starting, of being there, that we are kind of almost forgetting. And to bring back to those spaces as an adult bear, to just be with the absence of who you are. So I would like you to share what your body is becoming. Like, what would you like, just, just to be there? Whatever, embrace your awareness. I like to take my fingers cracking, for example. Just do whatever you feel like becoming your body. That's one part of big lesson from it. There is another one here. Take a look at this one. Watch it again. Can you capture this moment where the adult owl looks at the camera, and it is totally concentrated to the cameraman? What's going on there? It's observed, there are silence between both, and then just turn, and something calls the attention, and boom. So it's kind of perceiving everything. It's just totally open, empty to what is going on. He's not trying to be an owl. He's just an owl. He's just listening. And through that listening, when something calls his attention, it takes action. Something emerges and goes for it. So let's hear what the owl hears. Let's try to become that owl all the time. So when we are saying, let's go to our essence, I had been talking about essence for a long time. I am a mimicry professional, and I had been, like trying to reconnect a lot of people. But when I started to really go to my own essence, there's nothing inside. There is just attention. There is just like what is going on, where life is, how I can bring my community to the next evolutionary step. So I have to listen. I have to listen where life is. So I can just foster it. I can just hold the space for life. But in order to do that, I have to be empty. And that's super, super, super a keynote that nature is showing us. Other things that nature does is kind of this feminine container of motherhood. This is one example of that kind of spaces that, like we have been told by Disney or Discovery Channel or National Geographic, all these narratives that nature is like kind of a hunting, predatory thing all the time, because it is a predatory space, but not all the time. So just trying it to bring all these other spaces and listening all these other spaces. Take the time to be present to what it is. Take the time to listen to what it is. And when you think about your childhood, think about what needs were then and if they were satisfied. And just make a list of those from that space of total silence with yourself. Is it what it is driving you right now? What part of it is still not satisfied? And think about ourselves as human beings as a matryoshka doll, where the little one inside is you as a baby or as an intrauterine fetus, and you start to build your awareness with every year, every experience then. And so when you are an adult, you are still trying to satisfy needs that are in the inner layers of that matryoshka doll. So when you ask yourself about what is your life, ask yourself about what are those needs that haven't been satisfied, or that I am still looking to satisfy. Because those needs are an obstacle right now for you to get to the core of the emptiness. Because when you arrive to the little fetus, that it is the little doll inside your matryoshka life, inside the last one is the emergence of life, is the total emptiness as the source of life. So to go there, you have to travel all these layers, and then you arrive to realizing all that, and that expressed from every direction. So to hold any process at any level, I had been working with communities, doing transformations and working with environmental conflicts and so on. What it is the most important is to understand how we are resonating with all these needs, and to just satisfy those needs. If we want to fight for something, let's fight for something. Let's create spaces to satisfy that fighting need. Don't judge your fighting need. It is not just like I was abandoned and I need containment. It's like I need to express how irritated I felt, for example, when that and that happened. So just holding that breathing of being of validation in the travel into the central core of your being, of life. That's what it is gonna spark the knowledge, the knowing, the wisdom of being totally in service to life. Notice the incredible expansion of the being. I am this flower. I have this color. I have these leaves, and I throw it to every direction. And I have these flowers, and I color them pink or violet. And like, I am this. I am this. When the moment arrives, you don't have any doubt of your flourishing. Like, it's just happening. So don't doubt about it. Just go for it. And if it is another obstacle, you just conturn it, or dance with that. And it is the expression of something that you don't know what it's going to be. And that's why the creation is so important for life. Life is creation all the time, iteration of creation. And I want to show you this human experience in which, for me, is kind of this development also showing as the plants do. So imagine we can do a performance like that, just in a group, holding the energy from your emptiness, and start to understand how the energy is moving. So you can just say a word or make a movement or ask somebody to participate, or trying to combine like what it is really emerging, like just flowing with it. And that is the work of bringing regeneration into action. So the thing is to understand what is your superpower, what is the shape of this superpower of you coming through that space of emptiness from which you can stand and help you to navigate the complexity in front of you and in front and inside of you. So, and this other part, let's say the part of being totally standing up with what is going on, sometimes bring us to the spaces of predation or you know, like or going for food or going towards something super intense, even with humans, you know, like standing in a point or doing a performance, or you know, like a really pushing hard or holding the space, even there is super hard to hold, even if there are so much obstacles or resistances outside, and the warrior we are, this space is what Carlos Castaneda called the warrior, because is where you are finding your fierceness, your tenacity, and nature has that. So we can observe how nature acts in such situations as well. There is no sound for this one. Now, this is one of the natural scenes that there are more wild, you know, like the hunting of a jaguar, hunting a caiman, a big reptile, you know, like. And that's where we can totally understand the humbleness of a predator. To be a predator is to be in such a contact with the whole ecosystem that they become the ecosystem. They become the space of total attunement with the whole in order to go to and find a prey. And that's something that we have tamed ourselves to be. We have domesticated ourselves in our society. We want everything to be wonderful, everything to be spectacular, everything to be you know, nice, or to be kind, or you know, but nature is telling us that the fierceness of, you know, like integrating a whole ecosystem is also about tuning in this way. And now we have been driven to be vegetarians and be vegan, and we're triggered to do that because we also want to, you know, like all the destruction of the ecosystems that had been held by cattle raising, and we are not connected with the ecosystem. But sometimes we are vegetarians or we are vegans because the mind, and because we are tempted to be that way. And I am not saying that to be vegetarian is a bad thing. What I want to arise here is that predation is a natural thing. Eating meat is a natural thing, but to be a predator is such a journey. So it is really important to understand that part of ourselves, you know, and doesn't mean that we need to eat meat because just to remember that. No, what I want to say is that we have to get out of any belief that we have about ourselves, every single one, in order to recognize what nature is saying to us, what life is prompting to us to embody in the planet, in our daily life. Do we need that energy of a predator to stand in front of something that we don't want to do? Or where do we need this energy, you know? And it is not violence. It is standing for something that it is hugely needed to just say no more. That's enough. No more financial systems. That's enough. We need that energy to stop financial abuse. So let's tap into it. My invitation is really, let's tap into the fierceness that we really need and get out of any belief that stop it. So that's another question I want to invite you to answer. What is your fierceness? You know, and this wildness. We don't need every forest to be managed in Google Earth or, you know, wildness space, not the internet. You know, wildness, super important. And this image for me is something that sometimes we make all this, you know, like a administration, management of the territory planning. But life just find a way to not be at the planning. You know, there is always something that it is beside that, and it is super important to put attention to what emerges in you in your relationships, to tap into what is the place through which life is really going, is really emerging, and normally is out of the plans. You know, if you want to make God laughing, just tell him to your plans. You know, it's like life is gonna be in somewhere else. So what we have to be is to tune into our inner empty space, to hear deeply, to tune into where is life. And this is another space that can change our perception of nature. This is a good part. And it just saved the little baby deer. So it is not always one thing, you know, it is something that emerges, it's something that is felt. So let's go with that flexibility as well. So it's more about what are you going to become? Exactly as Carol told us, you know, Like, why are we becoming? What life is really telling us to be now, to estar aquí, no, to be here and now. What are your decisions about that? And I am aware of the time, and I want to show you this one, because this one, it relates to another myth that we have about nature, and it's about sex. So when we see the courtship of birds, males are normally more visible. And what is he saying is, look at me. I can attract any predator that will be close by our nest. And the female has to tune into a predator's mind to understand if it is really that or not. He's not saying, hey, I'm so beautiful, no, at all. What is he saying is, I can protect our nest. I can protect our children. I can be the bravest as you can imagine, because I am this male energy, and I will protect you and our children. So it is totally different history told by Disney, but the courtships, it's a lot about the roles and the perspective of everyone there. This is another a dancing, but I want to pass through this one. You know, like what are they dancing for? What are you dancing for? You know, the power of being alive, the power of being of your flowering, of what is your bravery of being here, whether you want to share. That's what life is demanding from you, what it is trying to emerge from you. If you really go through what life is telling you, you pass through all these processes. And I guess that you have watched this before, which is the self-organization process. Every single bird in those formations, what they are doing is to keep the same distance with all the birds that they see close by. You know, like when you are kind of moving, and the only thing that you have to do is to keep the same distance to everything. You have played this kind of games, and that's what they do. The edges is to avoid obstacles, but nothing more. You know, it's a sample of that. It is just to find out collectively what is the simple rule that will help us to organize something. You know, it can go through, don't throw garbage at this corner until every time you see me smile, you know, do something, or, you know, every time everyone is tell one thing or another, or, you know, like to find. So our task when we are doing this process of being alive, what we have to try to find is what is the simple rule that creates a pattern, a collective pattern right now. So you can go with what the community wants, how to satisfy some needs, how to organize a street, or the street designs, or the neighborhood, or the organization, or taking decisions. So anything that we need, it will be spoken, but live at that moment. So we have just to listen. What is that rule? No, I want to pass this one. And I want to let you with this last intervention from Joseph Campbell.
Mythologies that built civilizations and are no longer working that way are just in rubble all around us. And an individual who puts himself to the task of activating his imaginative life, the life that springs from inside, not from response to outside information and commands. That person can find stimulation. There's no rule. An individual has to find what electrifies and enlivens his own heart and wakes him. And I have a firm belief in this now, not only in terms of my own experience, but in knowing about the experiences of other people. When you follow your bliss, and by bliss I mean the deep sense of being in it and doing what the push is out of your own existence, you follow that, and doors will open where you would not have thought there were going to be doors, and where there wouldn't be a door for anybody else. And there's something about the integrity of a life, and the world moves in. And
Thank you very much. And I hope that you will find your bliss, your place on being in it, and to listen, to really listen what life is. Thank you.
Thank you, Melina.
Thank you. What's your name? I don't know if somebody wants to say something after we leave this room.
Yeah, this is the last session, right?
Yeah.
That was just incredible. These are all like inquiries that I'm in, and you're just like giving so much form and vocabulary to these inquiries.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's your name?
That was Stacy speaking.
Stacy. Ah, Stacy. Yeah, I couldn't see you very much. I'm gonna change this.
I need to change my name.
This. Because I am spot, and I don't know how to change that. Yes. Okay, now we are in S. Okay, well. Hi, Stacy. Now I see you. So yeah, so I had been working with biomimicry for social systems. I wrote a paper on life's principles directly to be able to hold the spaces, the communities from the inside out, doing biomimicry. So I developed biosystemics with a colleague and a friend of mine, and we had been working on applying this perspective in communities and organizations. And I teach biomimicry as well for social systems. So anyone who is interested could be also there. I can send the information for that.
Thank you, Melina.
All right.
I guess we should go over to the vision train, right?
I think so. It's the other, I don't know if it's the other
the
it's
main
another Zoom, yeah, the main Zoom.
The different
Okay.
Zoom, yeah.
All right.
All right, see you over
See
there.
you there. Thank you. Bye.